we are Sean and Caroline Allen from the Modest Mom blog and the Well Ordered Homeschool. So today we are here to talk about
parenting 2-year-olds.
Parenting 2-year-olds. So some may call it the terrible 2 stage. I have always tried to avoid calling it the terrible 2s, even though there's been moments where I've really slipped into that. But we have 8 children, and we are currently parenting our 7th 2-year-old. So we thought by now we have a few tips and tricks. We are not perfect by any means, but we had just some ideas to pass on. So we're going to do a 5-part series on quick videos on tips and tricks on parenting 2-year-olds. So the first one we're going to jump into today is going to be about teaching 2-year-olds to be respectful. When you think of 2-year-olds, probably the word respectful is the last thing you think of. 2-year-olds are known for being whiny, for being demanding, for winning their own way. So an easy way, when your 2-year-old is screaming and they're throwing a fit and you can't seem to get across to them, there is a very simple little tip that I have done for years now. And that is I teach my child to say, yes, mama, or yes, dad, or yes, daddy, or whatever your child calls you. They're in the middle of throwing that fit, and you say to them over and over again, very calmly, you say, I need you to stop screaming. I need you to say, yes, mama. And it takes a while, but when they say, yes, mama, they're submitting. I've seen it time and time and time again. They're putting their will under you, and they have decided to submit to your authority. And when they're 2, it's very important to try and get their will to come and be obedient, because that's really what it is. Parenting 2-year-olds, it's all about teaching them that they don't get their way all the time and that they need to listen to mommy and daddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can tell a difference in your children. Like for instance, when you ask them to do something and they might grudgingly do it, but they do not want to say yes, mama, or yes, daddy. They for some reason they just don't want to say that because that means they have to yield. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to yield, and so they might even get around to doing the thing that you told them to do, but we want to make sure that there's an understanding there as to why they're doing it, and so we will almost always try to follow up with yes mama, or yes daddy, and sometimes they'll say it underneath their breath, or they'll say it between their teeth, like yes, no, like that. And we try to keep working with them until they finally will say, yes, daddy. Sometimes this is hard. Sometimes this becomes another battle on top of the original battle.
Right.
And all it amounts to is they don't want to submit. They don't want to yield to whatever you're asking them to do. Now, you're gonna make things worse if you're yelling and screaming at them, and
right.
And they start to feel like you're forcing them to do something, and you're doing it with you got a poor attitude. There's nothing wrong in the world with this, and you have to be convinced of that, and you have to ask them in a calm and a composed way. But if you're out of control and you're really being mean about it, you're gonna have a hard time getting them to submit.
Yeah, and don't just save this exercise of getting them to say yes, mommy, yes, daddy. Don't save that just for the big battles. If you ask them to go do something really simple, teach them in the easy moments. You say, I want you to go throw your diaper away, and you hand it to them and you say yes, mommy, and they'll say, yes, mommy, and they'll go run and throw their diaper away. Teach them in the happy little moments when it's easy for them to say it, and then you really have to work through it in the hard moments. But it's not going to be something that at 2 they're going to just learn to instantly respond. That's not really my goal. I mean, it'd be great if they did, but my goal at 2 is not to every time you tell them something that they just respond. I have to prompt them every time. It's called a habit training, and I'm more training them to become under obedience, not to have this rote thing they just say of yes, mom. It's more training their will. Right,
which is why we try to work with them to get them to where they can say it in a halfway respectful manner. Now sometimes we will fudge a little bit. They might be like, yes, daddy, or something like that. It's, they're not all the way there, but that's better than. So we're not gonna accept that.
Yeah.
So like Caroline said, it's not like they're not robots. You're not wanting to just hear those words and that everything is all's well. You're looking for the obedient spirit, and a habit of saying yes, mom, yes, dad. It can lead to that. It can really help to encourage that. And so, can your children say yes, mom, and yes, dad, and still be rebellious? Absolutely. So we're trying to work beyond that, but it's a showing of sorts that there is there's an obedient heart there, and they're willing to comply with what you've asked them to do. Now, there's probably an issue of age appropriateness. I mean, Caroline's touched on it a little bit, but if you're asking them to do things that they're not capable of doing or that frustrate them,
right?
And then on top of that, you're requiring them to say yes, mom, yes, dad. You're frustrating them further, and they get easily overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. So they've got you mad at them, and they've got you, breathing down their neck, asking them to do something that they probably might not be capable of doing. And then you're getting even more mad because they won't say yes, mom, yes, dad. So you got to look at how old they are and how sensitive they are, and try to take stock of that too, because you're just going to compound the frustration if you don't start off on the right foot.
So to sum it up, if you haven't tried this simple little exercise, I'd encourage you to make a habit out of it, to try this week. Go and tell your child in a sweet, kind way over the very simplest little thing, hey, can you put your bowl in the sink, and say, yes, mommy, and just try it and see what happens. See if you can get a better, respectful response out of your child, and ultimately a yielding, obedient heart.
Yeah, the younger you start, the better. We still have our older ones. A lot of times it's yes, ma'am, yes, sir. We don't necessarily require that of them, but it's become a habit, and so we'll ask them to do something, and our son, might be like, yes, sir, and say something like that. And that took a lot of time to get there, but it's just become a habit. It's something that he does, and I know that the willingness is there in back of those words. So yeah, start as young as you can, and don't get too upset if they're not, jumping right in there immediately. Just you got to keep working on it and keep building that good habit.